Okay, we're at Baker and Molasses at the movies. We're at Breaking Wave Coffee on Main Street, Sarasota, because the weather it's hurricane season. You never
Breaking
know,
waves,
right?
yeah.
And today we're going to talk about Nick Broomfield's Marianne and Leonard, or Mariana as they called her. This is the fourth doc I've seen of Nick Broomfield, so I have a little bit of a scope of his work. I love the Whitney Houston one. And we have Harrison Bender, programmer for the Sarasota Film Festival, Gus Molasses, Diamonds Along the Highway on PBS, and At the Movies with Gus Molasses on Facebook, and me, Roxanne, and I have a blog, getroxy.xyz, which is a film blog. So here we are, and I'll let Harrison start because he's the one who initiated this, wanting to talk about this documentary, so go ahead.
Well, I was so touched when I saw it for the first time. I was thinking about. So you mentioned earlier that you had seen a few of the other Nick's films, right? And I think he's well known for lots of different types of like documentaries and other type of work too. But I think he's particularly well known for his documentaries about people, about icons,
exactly.
Right? So he's Eileen
Kurt
Wuornos, Kurt and Courtney,
right.
Tupac and Biggie, right? Is it like about like people? And so he has this. Like a really fascinating, like look into these people's lives, and I think what makes this like pretty interesting is that it's not about Leonard Cohen; it's about Leonard Cohen and Marianne, right? So I think like focusing on a relationship that's like a little bit more, like ethereal and like not as tangible, right?
Sure.
Like makes for a little bit more interesting filmmaking because it means that a biopic is becomes less of a noun and more of like a verb, right? And so that just is like a formal thing. Just kind of tickled me, but really just the relationship as as the film goes on is just like so enticing, and so so romantic.
That's a great job is putting the Hydra, the island of Hydra, the Greek island, as a character almost, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It was almost like this place that people got lost in, and they did drugs, and they had free love, and they created, and
almost like something out of like a Greek myth, right? Just like an island of like where time and space are,
right.
Not
it's mythological for sure.
Yeah.
Their love affair, and obviously very poetic. You see his vulnerabilities. You see somebody walked out of the film with me and said, "I don't understand the monastery," and it was like people will take their own bits out of.
Right.
It's so interesting what people she didn't say I didn't understand the drug use, but she and I was going to go. He was a man of extremes, and even before he was insecure to some degree until he found his voice, but just the ending of the film. I would talk a little bit. You mentioned it was more of a verb than a noun in terms of it's really a love letter. It's a poem. It's an unfinished poem that becomes a finished poem. That kind of
right.
thing.
Well, I guess like what I mean by that is that like the films both in presentation. And in form is not really. It's not like a Wikipedia page.
No.
It's not like it's not
the best, the greatest hits.
Right. Like it's not. This is this is what Leonard and Marianne did. At these dates, right? It's like it's more about exploring the kind of people that they were, at these times and how that meaningfully affected each other. In ways that are just like deeply unique because they were both really sensitive, sincere artists.
Sure.
So I don't know about you, but I know a lot of artists who they I don't want to be throwing shade, and so I'm not gonna name any names, but that there can be a lot of artists that are not great. Interpersonally, right? Like they don't.
They almost have to. Yeah.
They don't. Yeah, right.
They have to be self-involved.
When you live in the moment and you live for beauty and things like that. Sometimes you don't you don't call home and say happy birthday all the time. You forget your kids. You do like lots of things that are not great, right? And so I think these were two people who had like the same or not the same but similar outlooks on life, and having similar and yet different experiences, like melding in these ways that were really just like quite fascinating, because frankly that's not something that we can see, at any sort of level, like from a bird's eye view or anything like that.
And I think Broomfield does a really good job of showing somebody warts and all, but yet making them seem sympathetic.
Yeah.
Right? He did
Yes.
the same with Whitney Houston. He did this call, or the Tales of the Grim Sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even that man, he humanized the prostitutes for sure that were killed. That was the most important thing. But he also humanized the son of this guy and everyone that was sort of surrounding him that didn't realize he was a serial killer. So I think Broomfield does a really good job of showing Cohen and Marianne, who definitely had their faults. I think the irony about Marianne was she was so maternal to all these people. She was like the muse,
Mm-hmm.
and yet her own son sort of fell by the wayside, which is so sad. And it may not be her fault per se, but it definitely looked like the kid got forgotten because of the
Yeah.
island
Well,
and the drugs. And
That's what Harrison's saying, that you
Yeah.
can't have two masters, the old thing, or you can't have. I guess you can have
Well,
more than one mistress.
I don't want to make a claim on record that there's like an ultimatum that there can't be of something, but
It's hard.
it's
hard.
difficult, right?
It's hard. His mistress is his art, obviously, in chasing that, and to whatever that degree that is, whether it's being monastic at some time, the drug to get him to that point. He's about the prose and and where she fits in. And
it's clear that
She
they
accepts
see like values completely differently. Like you said that his mistress was his music, and his mistress was also his mistress's too.
Oh, yes.
And so but if you were to ask him, like that's not the moral fulcrum there is like a little bit fuzzy, I think, because he sees like the form and love. If anything, like he was all about love, right? So like he sees the world in a completely different way. She sees the world in a completely different way from all of us. I mean, in a similar way, and that's where this magnetic push and pull, I think, between them is just so delightful to see.
Yeah, and the arc of their life that, he realized, and then she did too, that you meet certain people in life that really make a dent on you, or impression, I should say, dent's a negative word, impression on you. So
They make a thud.
you do get dented.
Yeah, I've been dented.
Bumper to
Yeah.
bumper. No, but that they really mean something to you. You meet thousands of people in your lifetime, but this one person, because of the time you've met them or the experience you had, it carries on.
vulnerability to
Exactly.
Right.
who you are.
Yeah.
Where he was not the Leonard Cohen. A lot of people don't realize they go and they touch on it at the end, after the embezzlement from the manager, which a lot of artists have that.
Mm-hmm.
He had this kind of entree with kind of a soft entree into the music world, finding his voice, and then having all this success kind of as the rebel, and then being a commercial success at the end with the hat and the old man. And it's just... It's very poignant, but there's a lot of lessons there. He comes out nice in the end.
Yeah. It's interesting because at that point in his life, like certainly is deemed as a negative, but it's also a kind of affirmation a little bit that just as much as you can influence your own life, there are events in your life that influence you. And this was a negative that he ended up engaging with in hopefully the same way that he did in positive ways, like in earlier times of his life. And also just personally speaking too, I got to see him because of that embezzlement, because he was on tour. So I was grateful.
You did see him at the end.
I got to see him in Brooklyn a couple of years ago perform.
Really? The last tour. That's great.
Yeah.
The hat with the iconic hat that he had.
Mm-hmm. He actually performed in Tampa, I want to say around 10 years ago, and I remember I was in college at the time, and I didn't have any money or anything like that, and I was like, so do I go to this concert and not have any money, and maybe he'll, heaven forbid, go pass on, or stay home, and I stayed home, and then like years after it was like I like really regretted it, but then I had a second chance to see him and didn't pass up the chance.
That's so interesting.
That's great.
But and yeah, he was a consummate performer, and everything that you would imagine a Leonard Cohen performance to be like, for sure.
Yeah. I love the sub stories too with the Ron Cornelius, his guitarist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many days did they do acid? 43 in a row or something crazy. I mean, those are great stories.
Oh yeah.
And then the family that left the island of the family that left the island of Hydra and then like fell apart. It just gave this spooky.
Yeah, that was sad.
It was it gave a spooky feel to that island.
And then the new lover coming in and
Right.
she having to leave, almost to the day, move on. Yeah, it's just it's really right what you said. It's not a Wikipedia ABCD. It moves around in a nonlinear fashion.
Yeah.
Like his songs, really.
Right.
Like his poetry. You don't even think of them as songs sometimes. They're just...
Definitely.
It's almost like hypnotic. Like the island was that to me.
Right.
I felt like, man, I got to get to Greece. I got to get to Hydra. Just like it was calling me home.
And Nick's narration in the beginning may have answered this question. I don't recall because it's actually been a while, but I don't want to be presumptuous about the development of this film or anything like that, but I have to think that producers were like, how about just a documentary on Leonard Cohen, right? Because that would be a better sell, right? That would be that would be something that would make more money in the long run. But he probably stuck to his guns a little bit. Well, I don't want to. Again, I don't want to presume like how it happened, but I have to think that would have been an easier path, and yet this would have been a more interesting way of going to these people's lives, right?
Here's what I know, only because I listen to a ton of other podcasts. He actually slept with her too, Nick Broomfield.
Yes, yeah.
So
that's true.
he had that sort of fascination by her because she was his muse too.
Mm-hmm.
So she was sort of like a Patty Boyd figure.
Did he sleep with Leonard as well?
Good question.
Really round it out?
Let's call him.
Oh, so Patty Boyd. Like,
All right.
No.
Well, Harrison,
a
Clapton.
giant muse.
No, but
Right.
you're absolutely right. That like it's totally like an important core component of that. But
Right.
but I would think even you can use your knowledge of Marianne to get to Leonard, and like no, it's it's like let me be like I see with the Patty Boyd thing, like let me be
Right.
the Eric Clapton filming George Harrison and right and Patty, right.
Right. So that was
Yeah.
interesting. And that wasn't mentioned in the documentary, right? He didn't mention that he had been with, right? That would have been a big reveal.
no, I
think
oh,
so.
by the way.
No, I didn't hear that.
No, so
you just
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought he did.
Maybe-
but
maybe he did and I missed
the
it.
filmmaker did not say.
oh, the filmmaker didn't say.
I don't remember hearing
yeah.
No, I would have
Yeah.
taken note of that. I would have been like, oh, okay.
That's my fault. I should have rewatched it, but like
No.
But
I
yeah.
didn't hear it, but I could.
Yeah, I only saw it once, so I
Yeah.
don't think they did say it. Or he
Okay.
said it.
But yeah, no, just really, really great stuff, and I was looking forward to seeing what he has to make
I
in the
think it's
future
going to
too.
be a tough year for award season for documentaries because there's just so many good ones. I don't know how they're going to choose.
How good a film is this, in your opinion, Harrison? Is this one of your? Is this
What do you mean?
No, I mean, how good a film is it? Is this one of your top?
I mean, would you nominate it for an Academy Award, or-
I mean, well,
In terms of it, do you like this better than? I'll just throw another different kind of documentary, different approach, different bent. Of course, not as I don't think as poetic. I'll just say that Echo in the Canyon.
right.
I wouldn't mind comparing that. To
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, they're both music related.
So,
I stumped you. You thought this is a good.
No.
film.
Well, it was like, is this a good film? Like, I was like, what? Like, what do you mean by that? Like,
Well, no, how good a film is
how
it?
good? Yeah, good.
I didn't say is this a good film. How good a film is it?
You're right.
Gus is pulling a Mike Wallace right now.
No.
The question is,
I quite liked it. It's definitely in my top 5 for sure.
of the year.
Yeah, like for documentaries at least. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's good.
But for sure, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it's, especially in the fall season right now, it's pretty hard to tell, right? Because we're gonna
Right.
the fall season. Unfortunately, not unfortunately. Fortunately, we all get slammed with great stuff towards the end of the year, and so making any list you make is the best of 2019 ellipses so far.
Yeah,
right.
like ask Dr.
But so
Ruth.
far for sure,
Ask
absolutely.
Dr. Ruth compared to this. It's
I
hard.
love
They're
Ask
both
Dr. Ruth.
they're
I
both
thought it was
good.
great.
They're different. Yeah.
Different film.
Yeah.
But the music one. Let's talk about the Teddy thing, because you have 82 minutes. The reason I know that is I thought there needed to be more in that film. They took an approach of